Welcome to the Life Leadership Podcast with myself, Leila Singh, all things coaching, career, and personal branding. This podcast is for ambitious career professionals like you, wanting to create a life of choice and freedom, to be, do, and have more through overcoming limitations, to develop new perspectives and insights, and to redefine your success, be that in work, health, relationships, and so much more. It doesn't have to be this way. Now, why have I chosen this topic? Because it's a theme that's come up recently in some of my conversations with clients that I'm working with. And I want to talk about why it doesn't have to be this way and why we do not have to be accepting of our current circumstances, no matter how many years it's been this way, and how it really is possible to create a life of extraordinary rather than accepting a life of mediocre. So here's the thing, I talked about our limitations, the limitations that we put on ourselves. And it's very easy to place blame on things that are outside of our control. So other people, other circumstances, maybe your manager, your employer, the government, the economy, the weather, Brexit, the pandemic, all of those things that we really don't have any control over. So when we stop and turn that around and look at what we do have control over, we have control over ourselves and the way that we look at life, the beliefs that we have, the conversations that we have with ourselves, what we say to ourselves, what we say to other people about ourselves. And a lot of these things are what actually places those limitations on ourselves. They're self-imposed. So for example, the beliefs that we hold about life, the beliefs that we hold about ourselves and of others, and also past experiences. So the past experience that we suddenly find keep repeating themselves, which means that then they become our truth. Why do they become our truth? Because that's the way our brain works. Once we have a belief or a situation that occurred and we create a story out of it, often subconsciously, we don't realize half of what we're doing. But remember, our subconscious mind is 90% of what drives us forward, of what creates the experiences that we have every day. It's what's coming from the subconscious rather than the conscious brain. And therefore, where we have past experiences that have happened, something that maybe was traumatic, that upset us, that offended us, often what we can do is we create a story around that. And then that turns into a belief. And that belief then becomes our truth because our brain starts looking for more evidence to prove that you're right, because our brain is always there to protect us. And what will happen is we'll start to see more and more examples of our story, which will prove us right. And then it becomes our truth. It becomes a fact for us. And we take it as that's life. That's the way it is. And my invitation to you is to be open to the fact that it's not the way it is. And actually we get to change what's going on. We get to create a new experience for ourselves. No matter how many years that story, that belief, that experience we've created for ourselves has been occurring for you. So what were you once told, maybe when you were young, when you were a child, that you're still holding on to, maybe without even really realizing? Think about the things that limit you. Think about the things that hold you back, that stop you from moving forward. What are the stories that you've created for yourself? And what was the meaning that you gave to what happened that now dictates your truth, but in fact, it's really limiting you? I hear it so often, but it's always been this way. That's how I've always done things. And that's okay. It's not a criticism. It's not a judgment. It's an opening for you to recognize that actually you get to change that. If you want to see improvement in your life, if you want to have a better experience, if you know that there is more out there that is possible for you, but you just don't know where to start from here, at looking back at yourself, looking in the mirror, and start to check in with yourself as, well, what is it that is always been this way, that I've always done this way? And does that have to continue? Is that serving you? Is that helping you to move forward? Is it helping or hindering you from moving forward to actually live the life you want, have the career that you want, the health that you want, the relationships that you want? And this isn't meant to be a comfortable conversation. Let me be honest with you. And I say this to any of my clients that I speak to, any conversations that I have with people who want to work with me. This isn't about me becoming best friends with you. It's about me supporting you to get to where you want to be and realizing your potential. And that isn't always comfortable, but it's powerful because it will get you the results. It will get you the shifts and the changes that you want in your life. So when you hear yourself saying, well, it's always been this way, or that's the way I've always done it, stop and ask yourself, is that helping me or is that hindering me? Is that creating you a life of average, a life of mediocre? Or is it helping you to grow, to develop, advance, and to live a life of extraordinary? Because if it is restricting you, limiting you, and having you live a life of mediocre or of average, then believe me, we get to change that. I'll give you a personal example, something that has come up for me over the years. And as you may know, if you've listened to me before, I've been in the personal development world for a long time now. I've immersed myself significantly in my own growth and constantly peeling the layers of the onion and looking at what I can do to improve myself and to be better and to show up as the best version of me, primarily so I can serve my clients at the highest level. And one of the things that I've started to recognize is a number of stories that have occurred for me over the years that resulted in me feeling that I'm not good enough. And there may be people who know me well. Some of you might be watching right now who's thinking, really? Why would you even think that? But for me, it is that I have a belief that I'm not good enough. And that is something I'm working to overcome and to recognize that actually I am enough. Because by knowing that I am enough, I will show up in a different way. And the energy that I invest into not being good enough, which means constantly trying to prove myself to myself and to others, is draining. And it doesn't really help me. And knowing that I am good enough doesn't mean that I'm not going to keep pursuing bigger goals and looking to improve myself and be even better than I am right today. But it does mean that I don't have to put that pressure on myself constantly of feeling that I'm not good enough and then trying to do things as a consequence to prove something to myself. It doesn't need to happen. And that's come from experiences that occurred when I was younger. And I can share that with you right now. This is my pure vulnerability here. There's a few things. One example is rejection. So from the time I was at school and my friends were dating, having boyfriends, and there was one guy I had a crush on and I got rejection. And in that moment, it was like, oh, I'm not good enough when it comes to relationships. And then when it comes to looks, I felt I wasn't good enough. I wasn't attractive enough because I suffered for a number of years with really severe acne from the age of 11 through to the age of 28. 17 years. It's a long, long time. And it was severe. I used to cry a lot. And I used to wish that, why can't I just be attractive like everybody else around me? Because my skin was absolutely awful. So then I felt I wasn't attractive enough, which meant I wasn't good enough. And nobody would love me. Nobody would want to date me. And then later on, so when I was older, I failed some exams. This was now when I was working and I was studying for the corporate treasury, corporate finance exams. And I failed them. And I'd never failed exams before. Fortunately, that was the first time. And I put it down to being older, but I also put it down to not being good enough. And so there's all these things that then created this belief and truth for me that I'm not good enough. And having recognized that in the last few years, I'm now peeling the onion, peeling the layers of the onion to kind of reshift or readjust my focus and my belief about myself to know that actually I am good enough. Because that's something that would, if I didn't create that shift and that change in my belief about myself, it would continue to limit me and to hold me back. Because when I attempt to do something or start a new project, for example, in my head, I still have that feeling I'm not good enough. That's not going to help me to move forward. That's not going to help me to get the success I want. So that's just a personal example there of me being very, very vulnerable with you, but also sharing with you the depth of these stories that we create for ourselves that really do limit us, often without us realizing. And that's where the power of having conversations with a coach, working and to access your subconscious mind, to really understand what's going on for you and what you're creating for yourself, often without realizing, can be hindering you from creating the life that you really want and for actually fulfilling your infinite potential and improving that 1% every day. So the purpose of today's live is to really share this with you, to have you open your eyes to really what is possible for you and what is it that you are doing consciously or unconsciously that is what often people call sabotaging ourselves, hindering yourself, limiting yourself. Think about the beliefs that you carry. Where have they come from? And in fact, what really occurred, what really happened or was said that have you create that belief? Look at what meaning you put on that experience. So going back to my example I just shared, the meaning I put onto a number of experiences that I'm not good enough. And so then I'm always doing things to prove that I am, prove to myself mainly, but then to try and prove to others. Why? Why do I need to prove anything? And it's a great example I come across is often confidence. The number of times I've heard people say, I don't have confidence. And when you drill down a little deeper to that, what's the truth of that? Where has that belief come from? And it's usually an experience that somebody had or something that was once said to them that they've put a whole story around, a meaning around, that's now created this belief that I don't have confidence. Or the feeling has come from a story that you have created, the feeling of not having the confidence, the feeling that you're not good enough, the feeling that you won't ever become a leader in your organization, the thoughts that you have, sorry, not the feeling, that the beliefs that you won't become a leader in your organization. But where has that come from? Is that because you were rejected once? Rejection, or what we call failure, is all learning. There's lessons in there, and not everything is meant to be. Sometimes it's a what's the word, like a benefit. It was actually a blessing that something didn't work out for us, but at the time we don't realize, and often we only realize when we're looking back and we're joining the dots and thinking, oh, I didn't get that promotion that I applied for, but now when I look at the person who did and the situation they're in, I'm glad that I didn't, because. So it's about not taking things personally, not creating a story of what occurred, because what occurred, it happened, and that's it. But as human beings, what we do is we create a story around it based on our beliefs, our past experiences, what we've heard as we've grown up from those around us, whether it's our teachers, our parents, uncles, aunts, friends. And I'm sure you've heard the saying, everyone's on their own journey. So everyone's had their own experiences and will see things from a different perspective. I've used this example before where me and you could be sat having a coffee, and just outside the coffee bar, a fight breaks out between a couple of people, an argument that turns into a fight, and we both witness that. And yet, when we're asked to share our account of what we witnessed, our accounts could be completely different. Why? Because we interpret information in different ways. One of the principles with an NLP about how we delete, distort, and generalize information. And we do that in different ways based on our beliefs, our values, our experiences of the past. So what we witness can be entirely different. You may think it was person A's fault, and I'm thinking it's person B's fault. It's perspective. And it's the same when we turn that back on ourselves. We create those perspectives, and if they're hindering us and they're limiting us, we get to change that. And when we do change that, we will show up very differently. And when we show up differently, or even better than we have been, we get a whole new experiences. We create new opportunities and possibilities. So this is really, really powerful stuff. Think about, where have your beliefs come from? What are the beliefs that you're holding that you actually, now you think about it, aren't really helping you? And what really happened? What occurred in truth? What were the facts? And then what's the meaning that you've put onto that? Because those are where we create our limitations. And a few examples I can give you is rather trusting or trust. So not trusting of other people. Maybe you've had experiences when people have let you down, or a situation where you're now saying, oh, others are always a certain way. Well, what certain way are they? And really, is that the truth, or is that the truth you've created now because you show up expecting something and that's what you get, rather than showing up open to a new scenario or a situation or an environment and getting to see what you experience? If you come with your opinions, your judgments, your expectations, oh, it's going to be like this because it's always been like this, then it will be like this. And trust, when we're not trusting of people and we feel like, let's say in the workplace or in a relationship, and we then believe that guys or women, can never be trusted, then we're likely to attract more of the same, because our brain, remember, will look for evidence to prove that you're right. If you imagine that, let's say your work environment is always a certain way, for example, in the past, well, I've always been overlooked, so wherever I go, I'll still be overlooked. Then that's what you'll get, because that's the message you're putting out there subconsciously. And that's the experience that you will have. So you get to create a shift in that, to change, to have a new perspective. Or what about the thoughts that you might have that certain people are a certain way, or certain places or environments are a certain way? When you have those expectations or that outlook, it will manifest into exactly that. That is what you will experience. You won't see anything different. So to create a new experience, to experience something differently, it's about changing your perspective and the way that you look at things. Even health. Often I hear people say, well, I've always been like this, so I can't change. And yet we all know, we've seen endless case studies of people who've maybe carried excess weight for years, and then eventually, at whatever age, have then managed to really create a transformation through the training, the nutrition, and so forth. But they found something that's worked for them, and they've created a massive shift for themselves, a massive transformation. Money, the way we look at money, well, we've always done it this way, we've always looked at it that way, I've always had this experience or this situation. Okay, well, is that helping you? Is that helping you to grow, to move forward, to create the life that you want? And if it's not, well, how do I look at that differently? I have a client who that conversation came up late last year around money mindset. And what he actually said, because I challenged him on some of the views that he had around money, and said, well, that's how I've always done it. That's how my father did things, and that's what I've done. Okay, but how about you look at it a different way? How about you could do this, or you could look at something and have a different perspective about it? And as a consequence of that coaching that we did, it's opened up a whole new world for him. And it's absolutely remarkable to see. So he's gone from playing really small and really limiting himself and restricting himself to now playing a bigger game and being able to create something even bigger for himself. And this all comes back to mindset and perspective and being open to change and open to new possibilities. So think about your life, your lifestyle. Are you grateful for what you already have? Do you see abundance around you? What do you focus on? Do you focus on abundance? Do you focus on all the good things that you have? Or are you constantly focusing on what you don't have and the lack in your life of money, of things, or whatever? What is it you're focusing on? Because again, we get to create what we focus on. We manifest more of that. So by shifting your perspective and the way that you look at things and then look at your own life, you get to create an even better life for yourself. And that's what we're all striving for ultimately, is to have a better life, to improve even that 1%, whether it's personally, whether it's professionally. And we all have fears. We have fears that we think we'll never overcome. And we've had a fear, let's say, for 40 years. So we just accept it. And that's okay. Again, it's no judgment, it's no criticism. But just check in with yourself and say, well, by having that fear, how is that helping me? How's that moving me forward? How's that helping me grow? And what is it doing to limit me, to hinder me, to prevent me moving forward? And therefore, if I can overcome that fear, if I can let go of it, because often our fears are so irrational. So once we can overcome them, imagine what we could do, what we could create, what we could have. Perhaps it's about asking for what you want, because when you were younger, you felt you were never heard. And therefore, in the workplace, you don't ask for what you want. You don't ask for the pay rise, the promotion, the recognition. And therefore, it's not serving you. You're missing out. It's hindering you. But here's the thing. Why wait and hope that that manager or that hiring manager or director is going to know what you want and give you it? Go and ask for it. And if it's a no, that's okay too. Doesn't mean you failed. Just meant it wasn't the right time. Maybe you weren't ready. Maybe it's not the right role for you and something better will come along. Again, don't create a story around anything. So I've shared some examples here of things where they're probably holding you back. They're creating those limitations for you. They're hindering you. And they're all things that are in your control. So my invitation to you is to imagine, think outside the box of what is really possible for you, because it doesn't have to be this way. So be open to new perspectives, to the way that you look at things. Consider the stories that you tell yourself. And are they helping you or are they hindering you? And are you accepting of your circumstances? Is the life that you're living right now, both personally and professionally, what you want? Is it good enough? Are you content? Are you fulfilled? Or are you wanting improvement in some areas of your life? Do you want aspects of it to be better? Because if you do, guess what? You have so much more control than you realize in getting to change that, to create that improvement, to be better. So that's my invitation for you for today, is to be open to new perspectives, to the way that you look at things, to consider the stories that you tell yourself and whether they help you or they hinder you, and to check in with your circumstances and how accepting you are of them. And I'm not only talking about work, I'm talking about every area of life, whether it's health, whether it's relationships, whether it's work, whether it's your environment where you live. Are you happy with all of that? And if not, what is it you're wanting to improve or to be better? And what is it that's in your control to create that transformation? Because here's the thing, a lot of transformation comes from within. Because going back to what I said at the start, we create our self-imposed limitations, often subconsciously. We don't even realize what we're doing. And by really tuning into that and accessing our subconscious and recognizing, identifying, having the awareness of what it is we're doing that is holding us back, that is limiting us, that's hindering us, we get to do something different. We get to change that, to live that life of extraordinary. I hope you found this useful and of value, and do share with me the areas of your life that you're looking to create a difference in and to improve in, and what that's going to be, and what new perspectives you've had. Until next time, remember to elevate your performance, maximize your potential, and create new possibilities by showing up as the best version of you. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe to this podcast if you haven't already done so. And if you enjoyed and gained value from today's episode, then do please leave a review telling us your key learnings and what you enjoyed the most. And do please share this podcast with your friends and colleagues so we can spread the word on life leadership, creating a life of choice, freedom, and new possibilities. Connect with me directly on LinkedIn, and if you would like to learn more about how we can work together, either DM me on LinkedIn or email me. All details and resources can be found in the show notes.